In this video, we are going to talk about why you keep pleasing your parents as a fearful avoidant and why it's stopping your healing. I am Pauline and I am so happy you are here because this whole healing journey can be so confusing, and we are dealing with a relationship you have here with your parents. And you may notice yourself, even when you're healing, still trying to please your parents, even if you see all the things they are doing to actually cause harm, even if it's not intended that way. So I remember deep into my healing journey, and actually still sometimes I still find myself trying to please my parents, or at least like tiptoe around it a little bit. And it's a hard thing to navigate, but it can really stop you from healing, or really slow down your healing process. So that's why I wanted to talk to you about it, because I am always looking for ways to help you heal faster, and this definitely is one of the things that can come in between that. So first of all, not pleasing your parents can actually trigger so many feelings, and it can actually feel like death, like dying, to decide to not please your parents anymore and to actually do it. It can feel so scary and so big. And that's because you were so dependent on your parents for so long. You were very young. You were not able to take care of yourself. And that's where all these dynamics probably originated, or at least partly. So if your parents don't take care of you anymore, and when that hinged on whether you please them or not, it is logical that you feel like you still have to please them, because otherwise it feels like everything is lost. The fear brain tends to catastrophize. We'll get into that, why that is. But if you, when you were younger, had to please or had to adapt to be safe, to not be abandoned, then not pleasing your parents, even as an adult, can feel like that is just life-threatening. And this is the thing, we are adults. We are adults and we can make our own decisions, but it's just really hard to see that in perspective, especially when we're triggered and when we're feeling our wounds and when we're in that flight or fight mechanism. So also, you never really grew past preschool brain when you're dealing with this kind of trauma, when you're a fearful avoidant. Most likely, not everybody, but most likely, a big part of you is still functioning in preschool brain, and that's why you feel so powerless and so helpless and also so unsafe. You still feel like this little kid, like you're 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, and because of the trauma, your brain in a way didn't really develop past that. It did develop past that, so when you heal, you will have access to that, but all that trauma can still keep you in preschool brain and keep you in that dependent mode. And when we heal and when you start having healthy relationships, you can catch up quite quickly. So it's not that you are doomed to have like a preschool or toddler brain forever, but right now, as you're dealing with the trauma, that's probably what you are dealing with and living from that preschool brain, that toddler brain that is just highly dependent, is very black and white, is very catastrophizing. If this isn't going the way it should go, then everything is lost and then everything will fall apart. That's very much a toddler way of thinking. And if you would have been securely attached, and I just want to say in between here, the fact that you weren't has nothing to do with your worth or how valuable you were or how worthy you were of love. You've always been worthy. So it's never your fault and it has nothing to do with you. So if you were securely attached, then You would have just developed through that period and past that period. And that's when you would have started to see nuance. That's where you would have started to see perspective, that when things go wrong, it doesn't mean that everything is going wrong. When somebody rejects you, it doesn't mean that the whole world is going to reject you or hate you. So that happens in a secure attachment and in a secure relationship where you have that model of a parent that is just going to be with you. And again, the fact that you didn't experience that does not mean that you weren't worthy of that or that you did something to deserve that. In a way, it is just plain bad luck. And I hope that helps you to stay out of the or get out of the powerless feeling that brings. You have way more power. And I remember the moment that I kind of thought or decided, all right, this was just bad luck. I was very insecurely attached. I have a fearful avoidant attachment style, but I could have just as well had a secure attachment style. It wasn't me. It was just plain bad luck. And that really helped me to let go of all the whys and the analysis and trying to figure out why that happened or what I did. It was like, okay, I deserved a secure attachment. I've always deserved that. And so now I am going to reparent myself in a way and heal myself to the point where it feels like I had a secure attachment growing up. And that's where I am right now. So that can really help you. But I still have more points to go. So another reason why you keep pleasing your parents is that you are still trying to be perfect so that they can be the parents that you needed, and give you safety. Because when you have a secure attachment, that gets internalized, that you are safe and that your needs matter. And so because you know that, you grow up to be able to fulfill your own needs and to help yourself get your needs met in a very healthy, non-demanding way. Because if anything, a secure attachment makes sure that you are flexible and that you are that you know what you deserve and what you're worthy of. And we all deserve the same thing. We all deserve to have our needs met and all that love and the secure attachment. But if you don't learn at a young age, as a lot of fearful avoidants do, that your needs matter and that your needs can be met, you will still try to get your parents to meet your needs. Because you believe that if they don't do that, it will never happen. And this is where you kind of have to get out of that dependency on your parents to get your needs met. And I say this, and I know it sounds so much easier than it is. These were some of the hardest truths I had to face, and really some moments that I really had to kick my own butt, that I had interactions with my parents that were just so painful and disappointing because of the expectations I had, because of the longing I had for them to be parents that they're just not. They cannot give that to me. They couldn't, otherwise they would have. And I had to accept that, and I had to face that, and I had to kick my butt into, I am the one who is going to fulfill my needs. I am going to do that for me. And of course I can have people around me that can meet certain needs that I can't for myself, but just keeping that expectation that my parents could, if I would just be perfect enough, that was just hurting myself over and over and over, and expecting things from them that they just didn't have to give. Not because they're horrible people, just because they didn't have that themselves. So I could have done that for the rest of my life, and I would have been chained for the rest of my life, wanting them to give me something they couldn't give me, and blaming them and being so angry at them for not giving it to me, and instead of just facing the truth. They are just people and they cannot give this to me. And so I have to take responsibility for my own life and for my own health and well-being, and just make sure that I get my needs met. But then I first have to figure out what my needs are, and that is a whole journey in and of itself. These were really hard moments. These were really hard truths to really release that dependent child part that really wanted my mommy and daddy to be perfect and not have to figure out my own needs and getting my own needs met. So I am not saying that this is easy, but I am saying that this is so freeing and so liberating, and that's what I wish for you. So that is, I think, one of the reasons that we still keep pleasing our parents, because it just feels easier in a way. We're just so used to adapting and trying and being perfect and working harder, because part of us is convinced that when we get to a certain place, that's where our parents will meet our needs, and it's just not going to happen. It is just not going to happen. If it hasn't happened by now, it is just not going to happen. So that might stop you from healing because you want that kind of easy route. It's not the easy route, but it's just what you're used to, what feels familiar. But then also, a lot of fearful avoidants feel incredibly lonely. Really, really lonely, because at the core, the fearful avoidant attachment style causes you to have trouble connecting to other people. And so you feel lonely. And because of that, it can feel like your parents are almost your last lifeline, even if it's dysfunctional. And of course, there are so many different, how do you say that? Gradations? No, that's very, that's how you would say it in Dutch, badly translated. Don't know the word, but there's obviously a difference in severity of dysfunction, and maybe you are going full no contact with your parents, and this might not really be applicable to you, but a lot of fearful avoidants are still dealing with a relationship with their parents in whatever shape or form. And so when you feel this lonely, it can feel like your parents are the only people or the last people who are there for you. For me, it felt for so long that my parents were my best friends, and it still, or again, can feel that way sometimes, but just in a way healthier way. But this was really a hard part for me to heal past, almost feeling like I had to let them go in a way as being my best friends, because it just wasn't, it was dysfunctional in a way. And I was so afraid that I would lose them, because if I would really start healing and really looking honestly at what had happened, that would mean that my perspective or my image of them changed. And could we still have the good parts of our relationship then? Coupled with you feeling so lonely, it is logical that it's hard for you to put that on the line, if you will. And it really was kind of a leap of faith to think, okay, if we can have a relationship now with all this trauma and it being dysfunctional, then we can definitely have a relationship when I'm healed and I know what functional is, like what's working and what's healthy. And that turned out to be the truth. But that is a leap of faith. And there's a lot of leaps of faith that you kind of have to take as you're healing trauma. But it can keep you from healing if you're afraid that you will lose that last lifeline, if you will lose that last support system in a way. So these are almost 4 reasons why you keep pleasing your parents as a fearful avoidant, and why it is stopping you in healing the fearful avoidant attachment style. Just to show you from the other side, my relationship with my parents, I think, is better now than it used to be. It's not perfect. I don't think it will ever be perfect. There are still things that we can't talk about when it comes to the trauma, but it is healthy now. I set my boundaries, I express my needs, and my parents just accept that, and they do their best to treat me the way I want to be treated, in the capacity that they can. And I really appreciate that. So our relationship now is better in a way, and more real and more truthful and not dependent anymore. And that feels really good. We're way more equal than we used to be. And that is very liberating in and of itself. So this is why you keep pleasing your parents as a fearful avoidant. Please let me know if this was valuable. There are probably a million more reasons why you would do this. If you have an insight on that, please share in the comments below. I would love to hear more. And yeah, as always, I am so happy you are here, and I will see you in the next one.
Healed and Happy is a tailor-made online program where me and my team personally guide you through healing the roots of a fearful avoidant attachment style.